That is an awesome anecdote. Nick, maybe on the flip side, any common
Yeah.
mistakes you see, employers, HR teams make in this OE process?
Yeah, I think and what you were kind of talking a little bit about it in terms of that feeling of dreading open enrollment, and then it's kind of the humdrum announcement. And I think without that intention up front, starting with the surveying employees, moving into strategy with leadership, leveraging your broker relationship, and kind of coming up with a game plan, I see a lot of folks kind of just resign themselves to this inevitable feeling of doom and gloom that OE is just this hard thing to go through. You just got to get through it, grit your teeth. And then as a result, the communication isn't energetic. It's not a big deal. It's kind of just here it is again, and go in and make your elections and don't ask me any questions because I don't have the time to answer. And then I've even seen instances where there are increases to the rates, but it's not communicated until folks actually go into the Ben admin system and enroll, and they're like, well, wait a minute, this is more expensive. Yeah. And so on the worst end of the spectrum, and in many ways, I think it's simply because of an overtaxing of the HR team, not enough resources allocated towards open enrollment and preparing for it, or the carriers weren't, pressured enough by the broker to get them their answers soon enough to build OE communications. Either way, it led to a kind of passive communication and engagement with employees, which then only leads to employees feeling like they've been slighted and then not engaging, at best, and then feeling bad at worst about your benefits package.
That's to build on that too. We talk about this a lot. Like open enrollment is either a trust building or a trust eroding moment for an organization. And I think you just called it out, like not being plain spoken, clear about changes, whether they're great changes or challenging changes, plus the context is that's a trust eroding moment. And that's with your entire organization. So feel a lot of ownership on making OE a trust building moment for the organization. Whitney, anything on your side of things, kind of big mistakes to avoid or things that you've seen other HR leaders do?
Just being really proactive is so important, and starting early, because we all know how these pieces all have to fall into place. And there's usually a lot of different parties involved. There's, the decisions that have to be made by leadership. Then, you have to communicate that to your broker. You also have to make sure, for our example, we had these great scenarios that we were excited to do, but we had to make sure, can our payroll processing system, can our HRIS actually accommodate those? Like, is that something that we're actually even able to do in the system? And if we are, and it has to be built out, how long will that take? How are the carriers involved in that, and what's going to be affected from a carrier standpoint? So there's all these different pieces, and not everyone is as great of a communicator or as prompt of a communicator. So for me, it's been so important to have a partner like Nava where, you guys are understanding the issues, the time sensitivity, and you're willing to be the squeaky wheel with the carriers. And in our case, also with our HRIS to say, hey, we need to know what's the status on this. Are we able to do this? If not, we have to reroute. This is the timeline. We're coming up. So finding a person too, even within your carrier or your payroll processing system. I'm still a little old fashioned that way where, even though now we have everything is automated, we have all this AI, we have all these chat bots, nothing is more valuable than a human person that you can rely on. And, like I've got, Susan over at wherever that I know I can reach out to, and they're going to answer my question, and they're going to have the right answer. And even care, which a lot of these carriers, they're dealing with so many clients, but at least from my perspective with Nava, I know that Nick cares about our situation, and he cares about my stress level too. And like, he knows what I'm going to have to communicate to my employees and my leadership team. And so he is working on my behalf, and he is paying attention, and he is following up. And that's been so huge. So yeah, just kind of staying proactive, finding those people that can be your advocates is really important, because getting all those pieces to fall into place is challenging. But if everyone is working together and, understanding the goal, then it can go really smoothly, which it did this time.
Love that.